Today, a long rainstorm is an excuse to make some coffee, sink into your couch, and turn on Netflix. The sound of water hitting the glass makes you feel calm, sleepy even. But 50,000 years ago, that exact same sound meant you were entering a crisis. This chart shows the primary danger. A wet human loses body heat up to 25 times faster than a dry one. Without waterproof clothing, your core temperature plummets toward hypothermia within hours, even in relatively mild weather. Seeking shelter brought its own geographic hazards. Humans typically lived in caves at the base of hillsides or near rivers. Sustained, heavy rain caused flash floods that drove thick layers of sediment directly into these rock shelters, often while people were still living inside them. But the most immediate threat was competition for space. Animals were driven to shelter by the cold rain too. Archaeologists found ancient cave sites where human skulls bear the precise puncture marks of leopard teeth, found in the same sediment layers as the bones of large cats. A multi-day storm physically compressed the prehistoric world. It forced vulnerable humans, rising floodwaters, and apex predators into a scramble for the same small patches of dry ground. Inside that crowded cave, one job took priority over every other survival task. The group had to shield and feed the fire. For most of human history, starting a fire from scratch was an incredibly difficult skill. Most groups relied on controlling a flame that already existed. If the rain drowned out your hearth, you were stuck in the dark, defenseless, and without a reliable way to relight it. To prevent this, humans carried embers from camp to camp. They would pack smoldering coals inside a thick, woody mushroom called tinder fungus, which could catch a spark and safely smolder internally for hours. It was a biological lighter. This wasn't guesswork, it was standard equipment. When the 5,300-year-old body of Otzi the Iceman was recovered in the Alps, he was carrying a dedicated fire kit strapped to his belt, complete with flint, iron pyrite for striking sparks, and a pouch of tinder fungus. Keeping the fire fed meant the cave remained a habitable sanctuary. It provided the light and warmth necessary to keep the predators out and the group functional while the storm locked them inside. Once the fire is stable and everyone is mostly dry, a practical problem emerges. You have 20 people stuck in a cave for 3 days. What do they do with all that time? They used the unbroken hours for tasks that required deep focus. Archaeologists find caves packed with rock flaking debris from mass-producing stone tools, and 100,000-year-old workshops where humans sat for hours grinding ochre into pigment. They also manufactured technologies that changed how they interacted with the world. This is a 35,000-year-old tool carved from mammoth ivory. It features 4 drilled holes and spiral grooves designed specifically for twisting plant fibers into rope. They even spent this downtime engineering their living spaces. Excavations at Sibudu Cave revealed 77,000-year-old sleeping mats topped with Cape laurel leaves. These leaves contain natural chemicals that repel biting insects, suggesting humans were practicing pest control nearly 80,000 years ago. Being trapped by the weather created the exact conditions of extreme, sustained concentration required to invent these complex materials. The rain manufactured the time needed for industry. Eventually, the stone blades are sharp, the rope is twisted, and the practical chores are finished. But the storm is still pounding the earth outside, and the group's behavior begins to shift. Some individuals left the safety of the main hearth. They grabbed handheld lamps filled with animal fat and crawled hundreds of meters into pitch-black rock passages that were often too narrow to stand in. Deep inside those hidden chambers, they painted. The walls of caves like Chauvet are covered in animals drawn mid-stride, with tensed muscles and anatomical precision. These weren't doodles. They were recreations of memory that could only be executed when there was nothing else to do but create. Back at the main fire, the darkness changed the nature of the conversation. Studies of modern hunter-gatherers show that daytime talk is usually about resources and territory, but around the fire at night, over 80% of conversation shifts to stories, myths, and shared history. The isolation of a storm turned the cave into an AN classroom. It was a space where vital survival knowledge was hard-coded into the next generation through speech and song. When the clouds finally part, the humans step out into a landscape that has been temporarily transformed. The soaked earth gives hunters a clear advantage. The wet mud captures deep, flawless imprints of every creature that moved during the rainfall, providing a detailed map of exactly where the local herds are headed. Nutrients become easier to reach. Rock depressions fill with clean water, tubers pull easily from softened soil, and Comptine-dense termites swarm. The rain wasn't a pause in survival, it was a reset button. The groups that used their confinement to prepare entered this new landscape with sharper tools and a clear tactical advantage. For our ancestors, being trapped inside created a paradox. The moments when they were most physically restricted were often the moments they were the most creatively productive. The protective clothing, the binding ropes, and the shared myths that define our species were born from this mandated downtime. Boredom didn't exist when free time was used to invent the future. So next time you hear rain hitting your window, you aren't just listening to the weather. You're hearing the same sound that forced our ancestors to sit down, look at each other, and begin the work of becoming human.